Alright, let's dive into a story that's been making waves in academia: the resignation of Professor Jason Arday from the University of Cambridge amidst a plagiarism scandal. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me just say this: personally, I think this case is about so much more than just plagiarism. It's a window into the pressures of academia, the complexities of identity, and the brutal reality of public scrutiny. So, let's break it down. First off, what makes this really interesting is the context. Jason Arday wasn't just any professor, he was the youngest black professor ever appointed at Cambridge, a sociologist who broke barriers in a field that's historically been dominated by white academics. From my perspective, this achievement alone is monumental. But it also set him up for a level of scrutiny that's frankly unfair. When you're a trailblazer, every mistake gets amplified, and every success gets questioned. That's just the reality of being a first. Now, let's talk about the plagiarism allegations. Nathan Cofnas, the academic who brought these claims to light, is no neutral party. He's a self-described race realist whose views on race and meritocracy have sparked major backlash. In my opinion, this adds a layer of complexity to the story. Are the allegations legitimate, or is this a targeted attack? Personally, I think there's truth to both sides. Yes, Arday admitted to errors in his work, but the intensity of the backlash feels disproportionate. What many people don't realize is that plagiarism in academia is often a gray area, especially when it comes to early career scholars who are still finding their voice. Mistakes happen, but they don't always warrant a career-ending scandal. One thing that immediately stands out is Arday's response to the allegations. He didn't deny the errors; instead, he attributed them to his autism, explaining that he relied on mimicry to process information. This raises a deeper question: how does academia accommodate neurodivergent scholars? From my perspective, this isn't just about plagiarism, it's about whether institutions are equipped to support diverse minds. If you take a step back and think about it, the academic system is built on rigid norms that don't always account for differences in learning and expression. Arday's case highlights this gap in a way that's both tragic and eye-opening. Another detail I find fascinating is Arday's claim that the attacks against him were racially motivated. He described them as a well-orchestrated campaign to unseat him, tied to broader criticism of diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) policies. Personally, I think there's some truth to this. DEI initiatives have always been polarizing, and figures like Arday often become lightning rods for that debate. What this really suggests is that the plagiarism allegations might be just the tip of the iceberg, a symptom of deeper tensions within academia and society at large. Now, let's talk about Cambridge's response. The university launched an investigation, which is standard procedure, but their statement about providing support to Arday feels almost ironic. If you ask me, the damage was already done by the time they stepped in. Academia prides itself on being a space for intellectual rigor, but it often fails to protect its most vulnerable members. What this case shows is that institutions need to do better, not just in investigating misconduct, but in fostering environments where scholars can thrive without fear of public crucifixion. Finally, Arday's resignation statement is worth reflecting on. He said, "This is not the end of my work. I need time to heal, and when that time comes, I will return." Personally, I find this incredibly poignant. It's a reminder that behind every scandal, there's a human being with a story. Arday's departure isn't just a loss for Cambridge, it's a loss for anyone who believes in the power of diverse voices in academia. What makes this really interesting is the question it leaves us with: can academia handle its trailblazers, or will it continue to chew them up and spit them out? So, here's my closing thought: this story isn't just about plagiarism or one professor's downfall. It's about the systems we've built and the people they leave behind. From my perspective, the real scandal here isn't Arday's mistakes, it's how quickly we're willing to discard someone who dared to challenge the status quo. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.